The church has been a big part of my life. Prayer has been a big part of my life.
Before the red carpets and designer tuxedos, Pierce Brosnan's life was shaped by abandonment and silence. Born in a small Irish town in 1953, his earliest memories weren't of glitz or glamour, but of being left behind. His father vanished without a trace, and by the time he was 4, his mother had to make an impossible choice. She moved to London in search of work, leaving young Pierce in the care of relatives. What was meant to be temporary stretched into 7 long, disorienting years. Everything changed at 11. His mother, now remarried, brought him to Scotland where he met his stepfather, William Carmichael, a calm, steady man who didn't try to fill the silence with forced affection. Instead, he taught Pierce how to fish, how to fix things, and perhaps most importantly, how to feel safe. One pivotal moment shaped his imagination forever. William took him to see Goldfinger. But acting wasn't Brosnan's first dream. He wanted to paint. He enrolled in St. Martin's School of Art in London, studying under the shadow of giants like Francis Bacon and Lucian Freud. He lived on toast and tea, far removed from privilege, using art to process the pain of his fractured childhood. Then, fate intervened. One afternoon, he stumbled across a fire eater rehearsing in South London. On a whim, he asked to try it, and that spark of curiosity led him to a local theater workshop. Cassandra Harris wasn't just an actress, she was the turning point in Pierce Brosnan's life. When they met in the late 1970s, she was a working mother with 2 children and a complicated past. But Pierce saw more than her struggles. He saw strength, grace, and a quiet resilience that mirrored his own. Their bond grew quickly. By 1980, they were married, and Pierce had not only embraced Cassandra but also adopted her children, Charlotte and Christopher. Their home became his anchor. And while Cassandra continued acting, her casting as a Bond girl in For Your Eyes only led to a twist of fate. During a visit to the set, Pierce caught the attention of Bond producer Albert "Cubby" Broccoli. Cassandra believed with all her heart that Pierce was born to play James Bond. Broccoli agreed, but the timing wasn't right. Brosnan was still contractually tied to Remington Steele, and just when it seemed he might finally take on the role, a surge in the show's ratings forced NBC to renew it, locking him out. Then came the diagnosis that shattered everything. While in India with Pierce during filming, Cassandra began to feel unwell. Back in London, doctors delivered the unthinkable news: ovarian cancer, and it was already advanced. She endured 8 surgeries, countless rounds of chemotherapy, and never lost her will to fight. Pierce stayed by her side, not as a movie star, but as a husband and caretaker. When she passed away in 1991, at just 43, she left behind a devastated family, but also a man forever changed. When Pierce Brosnan finally became James Bond in 1995's GoldenEye, it wasn't just a casting win, it was a long-delayed triumph. The franchise had been gasping for relevance, and Brosnan brought it roaring back. His version of Bond was suave, dangerous, and emotionally complex. Over the next 7 years, he anchored 4 blockbuster films, saving a legacy that had nearly fallen apart. But behind the scenes, betrayal brewed. While Brosnan was still filming and even pitching ideas for the next Bond film, producers were quietly auditioning his replacement. He had no idea. In 2004, during a casual shoot in the Bahamas, he received the call. No lead-up. No explanation. Just a cold dismissal: "You were a great James Bond. Thank you very much. Goodbye." The man who had carried the franchise through some of its darkest years was dropped without warning. The blow wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. His children saw him cry for the first time. Not because he lost a role, but because of how it was taken from him. It wasn't just about Bond, it was about loyalty, respect, and closure. The decision hurt, but Brosnan didn't speak out in anger. Instead, he stepped back with grace, even as the world moved on without him. The man who had once saved Bond was suddenly left behind by it. Just when Pierce Brosnan had begun to find peace again, life dealt him another devastating blow. After losing Cassandra, he met Keely Shea Smith, a journalist with no interest in the Hollywood version of him. She loved the man beneath the fame. Their connection was instant and steady. Over time, they built a new life, one rooted in healing and genuine love. Keely became the calm in his storm, helping him stitch together the parts of himself that grief had shattered. But history, cruel as ever, came knocking again. In 2013, Brosnan lost his daughter Charlotte, the same little girl he had adopted and raised as his own after Cassandra's first marriage. She died of the same disease that had claimed her mother and grandmother. Ovarian cancer struck again, and this time it felt almost too cruel to be a coincidence. Charlotte was 41, the same age Pierce's son Sean had been when Cassandra died. Still, Brosnan showed up. At a 2014 cancer fundraiser, his voice cracked as he said, "I held the generous, strong, beautiful hand of my first wife, and just last year, I held the hand of my daughter." No actor could fake that kind of pain. And yet, he endured it without becoming bitter. With Keeley by his side, he continued to speak out about awareness, prevention, and early detection. Through decades of fame, loss, and betrayal, Pierce Brosnan remains, perhaps quieter, perhaps heavier with memory, but still standing. In 2024, he and Keeley celebrated 23 years of marriage, weathering both public scrutiny and private pain. Keeley, once mocked by tabloids for her weight, faced years of cruel headlines. But she chose grace over shame, eventually losing 100 pounds, not for the world, but for herself. Pierce's love never wavered. Today, Brosnan continues acting, but his real work lies beyond the screen. He speaks at cancer awareness events, advocates for environmental causes, and lends his voice to those who feel unseen. His portrayal of Dr. Fate in Black Adam reminded fans he still has the presence to command the screen, but behind the cape is a man who has fought battles far more real. At 71, Pierce Brosnan is more than James Bond. He's a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a man who has watched life take almost everything, and still chose to give back. The tuxedo may be gone, but the strength it symbolized was real all along. And that leaves us wondering, what truly gives someone the strength to carry on after losing the people who gave his life meaning? Let us know what you think. And if this story moved you, like, comment, and subscribe, because some legacies are too human to be forgotten.